Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar series. My name is Dan Harris. I'll be your moderator today. A few housekeeping items before we jump into the webinar. If you have questions, please enter those into the question box. We will have a Q&A question at the end of the session and try to answer all of those questions. Any questions that are asked that we do not get answered during the presentation, we will be answering those individually to the person that asked the question, as well as sharing those answers with the overall audience. This session will be recorded and will be shared with you after the event a couple of days later, along with a couple of surveys questions that we would really appreciate you answering. So without further ado, joining us today from DocLink is Dan Dravarik, and he will be presenting to us on how to use process automation to streamline processes for every department. So with that, Dan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Dan. And I want to echo Dan's greeting for a good morning or good afternoon, wherever you may be listening to this webinar. To get right into it, talk about the agenda to start. We want to talk first about some of the organizational issues that we're hearing really from every company that we talk to. I want to give you an overview and talk about some of the issues that we believe you may be feeling. We then want to go into a little specific about DocLink and how DocLink can help you with those critical business issues as an intelligent document hub, really an intelligent information hub. And as we go through the presentation, I intend to bring in examples of how DocLink can extend the power of your Sage ERP, whether you're on 100, 300, X3, doesn't matter. We have deep integration with all of those versions of Sage software. And we want to give you ideas about how you can use DocLink in accounts payable, in accounts receivable, customer service, production, literally every department within your company. So to start with the overview, when we talk about the digital transformation, a lot of people think that the digital transformation is all about the ability to work remotely. Well, we all know, we've all had plenty of personal experience working remotely. And that is something that has been in place for a long time. But really the digital transformation, what we believe is most critical in the digital transformation for your company is access to your information. It is that information that is your competitive advantage. That is what's going to make you successful and allow your company to continue to grow. And DocLink, as a complement to your Sage ERP, is going to provide access to that information, to all of the information that you need to be able to make better business decisions and be able to make them faster. These days, we are all seeing more documents, seeing more data generated faster than ever before. And we have to be able to turn that data, turn all of those documents into useful information to make those business decisions. And that's where DocLink plays an important part. So I think we can all picture ourselves in this position. We're all busy with our own work, but we all have many interruptions during our day, whether it's coming through a cell phone as a phone call or a text message. It's people walking into our offices. We're being inundated every day. And the most critical issue that we all face is how do we access information and how do we distribute that information? When people are coming to us, how do we get that information to them or allow them to access that information themselves, again, to keep up with the pace of business these days? So everybody is handling so many different documents, and we need to be able to investigate the information that's on those documents and turn it around, incorporate it into our discussions, and make better, faster decisions. So how does DocLink work? And how does DocLink enable us to accomplish this critical goal? It all starts with the repository and database. And within the repository and database, the first thing that we need to do, of course, is we need to be able to onboard documents or import documents and capture the data that is on those documents. With DocLink, we have many ways that we're able to bring documents into the repository. We can monitor an email address. Many companies are using common email addresses to receive their vendor invoices or to receive their customer purchase orders. We can monitor that email address and bring those documents in. We can use, of course, a simple scanner, whether it's a desktop scanner or it's a scanner that's built into a centralized copier hub that you may have. There's many ways that we can bring documents into the repository. Now, once they're in the repository, there are many things that we can do with them. Many people, of course, think the first thing is to put it into a process. We need to put it into an approval workflow, perhaps. Whether that approval workflow is for something like an AP invoice, or is it for a quote that you may need to issue to your customer, or a contract that's being considered. Whatever the document type might be, we can put those documents into an approval workflow in DocLink, route them to the appropriate people, get their approval or get their denial with notes, and continue to process that document, continue to process the information that is on it. Now, in the case of a transaction, like an AP invoice or perhaps a customer purchase order, after we've processed it, DocLink, with our deep integration to those Sage ERPs, has the ability to automatically push the data into Sage to create that transaction that you need there. So we can automatically push invoice information that we've captured directly into the Sage AP invoice entry screen. Or on the other side of the business, we can take that purchase order information from your customer and push that directly into the sales order entry screen to eliminate the hands-on data entry that people are doing today, so that we can free up their time to do things that are hopefully more profitable, more productive, and hopefully more interesting to the employee as well. But once those transactions are in Sage, it doesn't end there. We have a deep two-way integration that allows users within Sage to be able to retrieve the images of the documents that we've captured in the repository directly from their Sage environment. And as updates occur in Sage, we're going to bring any changed data or additional data back into the DocLink repository so that we can use that for further processing, for search and retrieval purposes, and other actions that may need to occur down the line. As I mentioned, we do have the retrieval capabilities. We can retrieve directly from your Sage environment, but we also have the ability to retrieve documents and the information that is on them directly from within DocLink. And this is a very important point because now there are many users, many potential users within your company who will need access to documents. They will need to retrieve documents, whether it's for field service or for maintenance or whatever the purpose might be. But some of those employees should not have access to your ERP system. So we can provide the power of DocLink to them while keeping them outside of your ERP system and still allow them to access the documents, access the information, and make the decisions that they need to make because they have access to that information. And last but not least, we have the ability to deliver documents and deliver the information to those who need it, whether they be inside the company or outside the company. We can send documents via email. We can also transfer them using FTP. We can even print them out if we still need to have a paper copy of one of those documents. So when we talk about DocLink as an intelligent document hub, We start, as I mentioned, with the documents. Those documents all have data on them. If it's an AP invoice, we have the vendor, we have the invoice number, the invoice date, the dollar amounts, the line item detail on those documents. And that is all data that we need to be able to process transactions within Sage. We want it to be able to take that data, collect it, and turn it into information that we can all analyze and all use. And of course, with better information, more timely information, we can make better and faster decisions. Now, once we've brought a document into DocLink and we talk about the data, how do we use that data? Well, the first thing that we do is we index that data. We've captured it, we put it into our database, and we index it. And it is this indexing that is foundational to DocLink and provides the power for all of the other capabilities that the program provides. Once the data has been indexed, we can use that as the basis for searching. We are no longer dependent upon file names. File names have a number of inherent problems with them. So if you're using a program like SharePoint, or if you have something like just a series of folders on a shared network drive, file names, first of all, need to be able to incorporate every convention. Everybody in the company needs to follow that convention. They need to type it accurately every time, store it in the proper place every time, for us to be able to use file names to retrieve. I once had a conversation with a prospect who said they have two other issues. They have users who like to delete files, and another user who is very quick with the mouse and will move files from one folder to another, making it further difficult to define documents based on file names. With DocLink, you have a single source of truth. Everything is in the repository, and we will use the data to find the documents. We don't go to someone and ask them to find a file that is a such and such file name.pdf. We ask them to find an invoice from a vendor from a particular date or has a particular item on it. That's all the data that we're collecting, we're indexing, and then we use that as the basis for searching for those documents. And we can find not only one document, but we can find all of the related documents as well by using the data, the indexed data, to link documents and make them ultimately searchable. We can also use that indexed data as the basis for securing our documents. So it's one thing to be able to process documents, make the information available, but we also need to do it in a very secure manner these days. And with DocLink, we can use any of the data, any of the properties, as we call them, as the basis for securing a document. Now, what does it look like? Here we see a simple example of an invoice that we have captured through one of our capture means. We brought it into the repository. And on the right-hand side, you see an example of the data that we can index. We'll index the document number, the vendor ID, and vendor name. We can take it all the way down to the line item description, the quantities, the unit prices, those sorts of things. And at the very bottom, if you look carefully, you can see the payment information as well. This is an illustration of that two-way integration, so that when this invoice has been paid through your Sage ERP system, we're going to capture that payment information and write it back to the database, write it back to the document that's stored in DocLink, so that it is readily available anytime you may have an inquiry from a vendor. And it's not limited to accounts payable. We have this type of automatic and retroactive index capabilities throughout the system and throughout our integration with your Sage ERP. I mentioned that the indexing of the data allows us to link documents. Here we have an example, the results of a simple search based on data that we have entered as search criteria. And you see here, we are able to retrieve the purchase order, the packing slip, and the invoice all at the same time and display them side by side. There's no need for you to go and search for separate documents and open them in separate tabs in your browser or anything like that. They can all be displayed within DocLink side by side to make it very easy for you, again, to see all of the information all at the same time and know how to handle a particular question that you may have in mind that causes you to refer to the original documents. The indexing starts by entering a search criteria. Here we have an example where we're using the purchase order number to search for the documents. And you notice we have different document types. The first two are invoices. The third one is the purchase order, the original purchase order itself. After we enter that PO number as our search criteria and we tell the system that we want to see invoices and purchase orders, when you click the search button, we will bring all of those documents together. And here you notice it's multiple invoices applying to a particular purchase order. So it's not just a one-to-one-to-one, it could be one-to-many. Once we have the documents in our search results, from there, we can go ahead, we can email them, and I'll talk more about this in just a few minutes, or if need be, we can still print them off and have a paper copy to refer to as well. Some examples of properties that can be indexed and ways that we can use them. Of course, we can capture purchase order numbers on an invoice and link it back to the purchase order, as we just showed. We can search for an account code. It's this time of year. We all need to finish December, get through the holidays, get into January. We know for many companies, we're going to have year end. And then right behind that, we're going to have the auditors. So when the auditors come in and want to see all of the documents, all of the invoices perhaps that pertain to a particular general ledger account number, with DocLink, you can enter that general ledger account number and easily retrieve all of the documents that impacted that account number for whatever time range the auditors are interested in. This will undoubtedly save your company, the staff in your company, many hours of searching through paper files. Customer support can search for a customer name, or they could search for that customer's purchase order number, perhaps. Finance can search on vendor numbers, invoice numbers. You could even search simply by dollar amounts. People in procurement or in a warehouse could search by an inventory item number. Any of that information is available to be used within DocLink. Now, we've talked about the repository, we've talked about indexing data. Let's go back to the capture process. With DocLink, I mentioned that we have multiple ways of bringing documents into the repository. One way, again, illustrating the integration that we have with your Sage ERP, is to use our component. When we refer to the module, we talk about capturing, and this allows us to capture anything that you may generate from your Sage system. So we can capture your purchase orders. We can capture your sales order acknowledgments. We can capture a remittance advice or an image of a check if you're still sending a paper check to a vendor. Anything that you are generating in your Sage system could be captured and brought into DocLink to be linked to other documents that may precede it or follow it and may be necessary for retrieval and review by somebody down the line. We have our import manager module that allows us to automatically bring documents in from a monitored email address or a monitored network folder. If you have vendors who are receiving documents, they're shipping documents with a barcode on them. That may be a very effective and efficient way to capture the data and record your receiving transactions. And last but not least, we'd like to talk about our Smart Capture intelligent document recognition. This allows us to also monitor the an email inbox or a shared network folder. But as we bring the document in, we are going to automatically capture that data to eliminate as much data entry as we possibly can, freeing up people who are currently doing heads down, hands on keyboard data entry to do things that are much more valuable. They can take on new responsibilities that make them feel better about their jobs and ultimately help the company so that other responsibilities can be taken on throughout the organization. And I'll talk more about smart capture here in just a moment. Some of the benefits of smart capture: it is an AI-driven module, and with those capabilities, we are able to eliminate a lot of the data entry. Through the integration, we're able to validate that this invoice did come from a vendor in your database. We can validate the item numbers. We can validate the unit prices on items and all of those sorts of things to make sure that we have agreement, a three-way match, if you will, with your vendor's invoice and what we've received and all of the terms and conditions. We can automatically recognize documents so that we know the difference between a PO invoice and a non-PO invoice, or a customer purchase order, or some other document. All of this will reduce the amount of time that it takes. Later, I'll talk about a case study to give you an example of a Sage customer who's been able to reduce their cycle times dramatically. And of course, we can ensure compliance, whether it's for the financial audit or really any audit that your company may have to endure. Here are several examples. In this case, we have a PO-based invoice that we've received. We've been able to extract from the header area and the footer area of the document all of the data that we need to capture to be able to create a valid invoice transaction in Sage. But beyond that, we've also captured all of the line item detail. And we do all of this without a template. So by using the AI-driven smart capture module, we are not requiring your DocLink administrator or your IT staff or anyone else to create templates for every one of your vendors, or if you're using it on the customer service side, the purchase orders from every one of your customers. The artificial intelligence is automatically designed to recognize things like invoice number, invoice date, item number, and know that the data that is just next to it or just below it is the information that should be captured. Here's another example of a remittance advice from a customer where they're paying multiple invoices, and we can capture that information, bring it into DocLink so that we have a record of their remittance advice, but we also capture all of that information and can transfer it to Sage into your cash receipts entry screens. So again, we're eliminating that manual data entry. Here's an example of a customer purchase order coming in. We've captured all of the information down to the ship to address. And we've even parsed that ship to address so that down the line, you could retrieve a number of purchase orders or a number of invoices to your customers and see if you have multiple customers, you're making multiple shipments to a particular zip code, for example. And now you can use that information to better plan your deliveries and reduce your delivery costs. These are all the sorts of things that customers are able to do with DocLink. It's not just bringing documents in, routing them through a workflow, and completing an AP invoice entry screen. There is much more that is available, much more that you're able to do with DocLink and the data that we have, that we capture from those documents. Here's an example of a receiving document that we've been able to bring in. Again, we read it, we can help create that transaction in Sage. And here's a little different example. We if you're a contractor, perhaps, and you have a site survey or something like that, where you have drawing numbers and a job number, that sort of thing. Any type of document can be brought into DocLink and stored. We're not limited to just those documents that create accounting transactions in your Sage system. So we can bring in other things, other documents that finance might want, such as W-9 forms or certificates of insurance. We can handle the documents from your QC lab, all of your certificates of analysis, whether they come from a vendor or whether it's a certificate that you're developing and need to provide to your customer. We can handle all of those documents as well. Now, talk for a moment in a little greater detail about processing those documents. I mentioned to start that we are able to put documents into an approval process. We can do this either automatically or it might be a manual process as well. And ultimately, after it has been processed and approved, we can export that data to your Sage system. Here we have an example of a document that perhaps has been captured through our Smart Capture intelligent document recognition module. We see an image of the invoice, and at the top of the screen, we see the data that we were able to extract and automatically enter into our GL Smart Form, so that we're already preparing the data for that export to Sage into the AP invoice entry screen. After we take a look at this, we see that we can automatically put this document into a workflow, and it will move from one approver to the next automatically. How would that approval process work? What might it look like? Here's an example of an email that an approver might receive. And you notice the invoice is attached so that they can easily preview the invoice if they would like. The body of the invoice may be enough. That's something that you configure, and you can present all of the necessary information right there in the body of the invoice. Again, to make it faster, more streamlined, and easier for the approvers. And we also can provide the approval and denial link right here in the body of the email. And the beauty of this is this does not take you to DocLink to force you to log into DocLink to do the approval there. You have the ability to approve invoices or deny them and enter a note about the denial right from the convenience of your email. We all live in our email all day long. Many of us receive our email on our smartphones. I recently was in a conversation where I heard that an approver, an executive of the company, was at Disney World with his family and received an approval notification on his cell phone, in his email app on his cell phone. And while he was walking through Disney World, he was able to review the invoice and approve it and get right back to his vacation with his family, with really only a couple of seconds of interruption. There was no need to get to a laptop, log in, and do the approval that way. The other option is to use the DocLink mobile app. And this app provides all of the same functionality that you have from the DocLink web client or the smart client, where you can bring documents into the repository. You can search for documents, and you can approve or deny documents, again, from the convenience of the DocLink mobile app. After an invoice has been approved, really after any document has been approved, it might look something like this, where on the right-hand side, you will be able to see all of the approvals from all of the approvers, and you'll be able to see any informational notes that they may have entered as that document moves through the information, through the approval workflow. So with that, I invite you to pause for a moment and think about what are the mission critical processes in your company that could use DocLink and our processing capabilities, whether the document or the data ends up in your Sage environment, or whether it just is something that remains within DocLink but solves a mission critical process. Is it in accounts payable? Is it in accounts receivable or customer service and bringing in customer purchase orders? Is it in human resources? Does it involve something like a travel request? There are many ways. Contract management is another very strong capability of DocLink. So if you have contracts in your business that need to be reviewed, sent out for approval, anything like that, these are all just ideas, different ways that customers are already using DocLink, and you might be able to use DocLink as well. I mentioned the two-way integration. When we are in our Sage environment, here we have an example of the purchase order screen in Sage X3. You'll notice that we add a View Documents button to the screen. This is part of our out-of-the-box integration with Sage X3, but it applies equally to 100, 300, and all of the Sage products. So now, as you are here looking at this purchase order, if you need to see a document or multiple documents related to this purchase order, with a click of a single button, we'll bring back the results. And here you see an example where we have the purchase order, the packing slip, and the invoice. They've all been processed and brought into the repository, and they're all available. And again, with the click of a single button, you could have that side-by-side view that we saw earlier. The integration with Sage occurs in many places. We have integration in the purchasing module and accounts payable, of course. I've mentioned the sales order integration, accounts receivable, and if you need it somewhere else, we have the ability to add that View Documents button as a very simple, very easy, low-cost customization so that you have access to documents from anywhere in your Sage system. You may be in the X3 manufacturing module and want to be able to see the quality control documents right from the convenience of your manufacturing order screen. We could add the button there and allow you to reach out and bring back the QC docs that apply to that specific manufacturing order that you may be reviewing at that time. So lots of possibilities here. Again, it's access to the information to make better decisions. Talk about the retrieval capabilities from within DocLink. I mentioned we've already seen some of them, but using the indexing of the data, we're able to retrieve a single document or any collection of documents that are linked by common properties or common data. And we can do it through our web client, we can do it through the smart client, or through the mobile app. I mentioned earlier that we can distribute documents. We can do it via email internally, we can do it via email externally. We can deliver documents via email, as an example, directly from the search results. If you look in the background here at the search results, we have an invoice, we have a purchase order, and we have a receipt. We might also, through that earned capture, have brought in the remittance advice for that invoice. Now imagine, if you will, that you are on a call with a vendor who's asking about payment. You can simply enter the invoice number that they're inquiring about in the search criteria, click search. We'll bring back the invoice and the remittance advice so that you can say, well, Dan, we already paid that invoice. Here, let me send you the remittance advice. You can click on those two documents and email them directly from the search results. It's a very quick, efficient, and easy way for you to resolve and respond to a vendor's inquiry about payment. But this could be done anywhere with any example. We can also automate delivery of documents. So we often have conversations with companies who need to provide proof of delivery to their customers along with the invoice. DocLink allows us to capture that proof of delivery when it comes back from the carrier or the delivery driver. And then by linking that proof of delivery to the invoice, we can combine both documents and send them out in a single email automatically to the customers who require that. It's a huge time savings compared to printing the documents to a PDF, saving them to your desktop, creating an email, attaching them, and finally sending it. These days, we need to take advantage of the automation that's available to us, and DocLink provides that automated delivery for you. Another way we're able to deliver documents, and if we think about the contract management capabilities as an example, we have integration with DocuSign as well. We can easily send documents out via DocuSign, and when they've been signed and completed, they will come back into the repository automatically along with the DocuSign certificate, so that we know that they are complete, they're locked down, and we know the date and time that everybody signed that document. So, additional use cases. I already mentioned the first one, proof of delivery with invoices to customers. In the accounts payable example, you can send a W-9 along with invoices to your customers so that they have it on file. Sales performance reports on a monthly basis or weekly basis, whatever it might be. You can automatically capture those documents and send them directly out to your sales force wherever they may be around the world, and let DocLink do all of this work for you. So, just to review, we start with the repository in the database. We can scan, capture documents and the data in multiple ways. We can work with those documents and that data, again, in multiple ways, and push it to Sage for those transactions that are necessary. We'll take advantage of the two-way synchronization to keep everything up to date so that we can more easily and more accurately use the capabilities to retrieve the documents that we need, whether it's the financial audit. Perhaps you have maybe you're a food or beverage manufacturer and you have the FDA to deal with. You might have an OSHA inspection or health department. Any number of different governmental compliance agencies could appear, and you'll need access to those documents. And by keeping things up to date, keeping things in sync, and using that index data, we're able to very easily and quickly retrieve those documents for any of those situations that may occur. And again, last but not least, we can deliver documents in multiple ways, internally or externally. I mentioned earlier a current Sage customer, DocLink customer, that has achieved tremendous results. Summit Financial was growing very rapidly, and their accounts payable department was struggling with inefficient and manual processes across multiple locations. They were able to reduce the time that they previously spent processing invoices by as much as 95%. By eliminating all of that unnecessary time and assigning new responsibilities, they improved the productivity of their AP staff by 50%. And by allowing the company to grow without requiring the additional headcount, without having to hire additional employees to handle the increased volume, they were able to achieve 100% ROI within the first year. If you think about it today, the cost of bringing somebody in for an accounts payable or perhaps a customer service position can very easily, when you consider the wages or salary, benefits, employer taxes, you can very easily get to a $70,000 per year expense or greater. DocLink usually costs far less than that, and so I would expect that really your company too would be able to experience a less than 1 year 100% ROI with DocLink simply by not having to rehire for that retiring employee or creating a new position because the company is growing. Another example is Resurrection Life Church. In their case, they use the import manager to monitor an email inbox. They brought the documents in and automated the routing based on the GL code. It wasn't necessarily based on the dollar value of the invoice. Many of us think of approvals based on dollar values, but the beauty of DocLink is we can handle very complicated, very complex routing rules based on any of the data that is associated with a document. And in this case, they were able to bring the invoice in. They know the GL accounts assigned to the vendor, therefore they could use the GL accounts to route the documents for the necessary approvals. And ultimately, the information was transferred into Sage, eliminating the hands-on data entry. And now the only time that the document stopped through the process was at each of the approval points. So, in summary, some of the ways that DocLink differentiates itself from some of the other offerings that are in the market. DocLink is an enterprise-wide solution. DocLink can be used by every department in your company. I recently attended a Sage event where one of the Sage presenters started his presentation with the concept of enterprise without compromise. So I will offer DocLink as an enterprise-wide solution without compromise that complements your Sage ERP system. Our workflows can handle any situation, from the very simple to the most complex. The Smart Capture Intelligent Document Recognition module is going to take advantage of artificial intelligence in a very positive, very constructive, very productive way to capture the document, capture the data, accomplish two-way and three-way matches for you, and begin the automated process. We have the seamless integration, two-way integration with your Sage ERP system. One of the things that we didn't discuss today, but is available, is our Smart Form Toolkit that allows you to create an electronic version of literally any form that you have in your company so that it can automatically be routed for approvals and stored for reference. It might be something as simple as an employee time off request that I fill out, it goes to my manager, it's approved, and then sent to human resources for recording there. And last but not least, we have the document distribution capabilities. And again, this can be used by any department for any document for any reason. So with that, I will say thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. And Dan, if we have any questions, I will be happy to spend the last 15, 17 minutes that we have here answering any of those questions.
Yeah, I don't see any questions. I think I'm doing it right, but I actually have a question, Dan. You mentioned audit and compliance, and as we're in that time of the year, if you will, where we're going through year ends, and certainly audits and compliance issues may come up. Can you expand a little bit on? You have built-in reports already set up for certain, compliance audit type questions, or those things we would have to create? Because I think that's something that's probably top of mind for a lot of companies in the next few weeks.
Well, we can certainly very easily create saved searches that can be reused, because of course the criteria are going to change. It might be a date range that changes, or a dollar amount, or whatever it might be. But we can create saved searches so that we know the document types that we're going to retrieve. DocLink is also a multi-company system. So if you have multiple companies in your Sage database, we will recognize the company and store the documents based on company. So the saved search, Dan, could be for a particular company. It might be for a collection of companies, a single document type, or a collection of document types. And then all of the presented as available criteria for search. So the example I like to give is when the outside audit firm comes in February, and they say that they want to see all of the invoices for 2024 that are $5,000 or greater and impacted account number 6100-1000. In a paper-based world, that's going to probably take many hours, possibly days, to find all of those documents. In DocLink, you would identify the invoice as the document type, you'd identify the company, and you have 3 search criteria: the date, the dollar amount, and the GL account number. When you enter that, we'll go into the repository and return all of the documents that meet those criteria literally in seconds, maybe minutes, but certainly far faster than you can do in a paper-based world, or I'll say far faster than you can do in a file name-based world.
Thank you, Dan. And we do have a question that popped up from G. Michael. We are an NGO. We want to use this tool not to create invoices, purchase orders, or receipts, but rather to create interdepartmental requisitions to make disbursements. The question is it possible to import my own requisition form that we use using on paper into this system so the managers can fill out these requisitions online and also as tax supporting document?
The answer is absolutely yes. That is an excellent example, an excellent application for the SmartForm toolkit. Coincidentally, I just this month received an order from a Sage 100 user of looking to do exactly that. They have purchase requisitions that they will now enter in the SmartForm toolkit. With the integration to Sage, they'll be able to have access to the vendor master, to select a vendor. They'll have access to other information that is kept in Sage that's necessary to complete or necessary for a complete requisition. Once the requisition is saved, it will be routed for the necessary approvals, and then at the end of the approval process, we will take that take the data from that requisition and push it directly into Sage to create the purchase order. So from there, the purchasing department can simply send the PO to the vendor, as they do today, and as they send that purchase order out, we will capture through our component, we will capture a copy of that purchase order and bring it into the repository. So now you see, we start with the requisition form, we add the purchase order to it. As the product arrives and there's a packing slip, we'll add that to the repository. When the invoice comes in, we'll add that. And when it's paid, we'll capture that as well. So we can have that entire packet that you have in paper today that's stapled and put into a gray filing cabinet. You'll have immediate access to all of that from the DocLink repository.
Right,
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and from that, in that same question, a couple of follow-ups. Is it possible to have the requisition signed online by authorizers for approval and multiple potential authorizers for approval?
Absolutely.
Okay, and is it possible to choose the budget line linked to the expense? This line is part of the chart of accounts.
Absolutely. That's one of those additional points of integration that I was alluding to, but couldn't come up with that specific example as I was describing the solution initially.
Okay, so I think the solution can do those things you were asking about. Another question, how does AI get accounting information if the vendor doesn't have just one GL code?
So,
okay.
So yeah, a couple things here. First of all, if we're working with a PO-based invoice, and as you create the purchase order, GL accounts were assigned, that two-way integration that we have is going to capture those GL accounts through that auto retro index that I mentioned. We are also, our development team is actively working to expand the use of AI to capture the general ledger account number in a scenario that I think you are presenting here in your question. We can currently grab the GL account from a purchase order. We could also grab it from the vendor master if you have it there. But if it does need to go to multiple GL account codes, that's something that we have in development, and I hope to be able to release to the market here in the not too distant future.
Great. And then the question that everybody wants to know, and I will start the answer before I ask the question. It depends. And the question is, what does it cost? It obviously depends on a lot of different factors. You know, Dan, I would suggest that if you truly want a cost estimate, we really need to understand better what it is you're trying to do. There are various, Dan, if you want to mention a little bit about your quick start kit that can get things started. And because guys, this can be an enterprise-wide solution, so it's hard to say here's what it costs. So Dan,
right,
expand on that.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. And you really hit the bullseye. So just like your Sage solution is comprised of several different modules, DocLink is a modular system that we configure based on your requirements. And so we do want to start the process with a discovery discussion where we learn about your requirements. We make sure we understand them completely so that we can put together a reasonable quote for you that includes all of the software that you'll require to meet those requirements. Now, the quick deploy is an implementation methodology that we use, where we come in and within about 30 days, we will have you using DocLink. We'll have you using DocLink for workflows, and you'll be capturing documents. You will be able to retrieve those documents from your Sage transaction screens. All of those sorts of things will be available to all of the users within approximately 30 days. And then on day 31, if you require additional automation, you've got more complex automation rules, or you want your solution includes the Smart Capture Intelligent Document Recognition module. On day 31, we will begin the implementation of that additional automation to provide the rest of the solution and round everything out. But it's a very cost-effective and very short time to begin to realize value from your investment in DocLink.
And I think that's key, Dan, is to realize value in your investment within a 30-day window is key. And again, finding a nugget, if you will, to start with, or a hub to start with your process automation, and then, you know, getting that value proven, so you're being able to show management, senior management, owners, whatever the case may be, the ROI and the value of your investment in the all DocLink solution, and then look at what other areas it can be expanded on.
Yes.
All right, guys, we've got about 5 to 7 minutes left. I do not see any other question. One question, how can we use this for contracts and quotes to customers?
Oh, thank you for that question. This is one of my favorites. And I'd be happy to continue the conversation after this. DocLink includes complete contract management capabilities. So you're able to store a contract template right in the repository so that everybody knows which version is the correct current version that should be used as the starting point. You can download that, fill out the contract, bring it back into the repository. We will index that data, and we can put it directly into an approval, a review workflow. And as it goes through that review, if others need to make changes to the document, they can do so. And all of the versions, all of the revisions of that contract really of any document that may be modified will be kept within the repository, and you could revert back to an earlier version if necessary, but you will always have the most up-to-date version, and it will move through the workflow. As you saw in the case of the invoice, approvals will be recorded to the document, and ultimately, when it has been finally approved, you can use DocLink and our email, our distribution capabilities, to send it directly to your customer, your vendor, whomever the other party may be. So whether it's a contract, whether it is developing a quote, perhaps you've received a request for quote from a customer or from a prospect, you could bring that document in so that you know this is where this whole process started. Bring that request for quote in, develop the quote, attach it to the request for quote, let both of them go through the approval process so any reviewer can see what we've developed as a quote, but they also have access to the request for quote so that they can make a comparison and be sure that what we're proposing is meeting the requirements that have been requested. And from there, it can go all the way through the process. The quote can go out, the customer purchase order can come back, the signed contract can come back. All of these documents, all of these different documents can be linked and used down the line. They can be used not only to create the sales order and complete the delivery and the sale, the invoice and everything, but as I started, most importantly, all of those documents and all of that information can be retrieved by whomever needs it, whenever they need it, from wherever they need it.
All right, Dan, well, that is wonderful. I think that's, a great answer to that question. And in closing, do we have any last minute questions from the audience that we need to get answered? Okay, here's one. How do you handle training people on the program?
Well, the preliminary quote that we would provide to you will outline all of the implementation and training tasks that need to be completed. The training can be provided either on site or remotely. Of course, with COVID a few years ago, we became very proficient at delivering remote training. The advantage of that is we're also able to record that training and then provide those recordings to you so that you have them for reference at any point. But if you would like us to come on site, we all recognize the benefits of on-site in-person training. We can provide that as well. The service hours rates don't change. It's just a matter of the travel expenses that are added in the case of on-site training. Additionally, we do have our DocLink University with regularly scheduled courses for admin or advanced admin and other topics as well. And as a DocLink customer, you would receive emails notifying you the availability of those courses, and that is just another training option that is available to you as well.
Yep. And Doug, I apologize. Just now your message came in first, and somehow it got sorted, if you will. Does the repository reside in an on-premise server or is it cloud-based?
The answer is yes. So
yes.
With DocLink, you could install our database and repository in-house on your own servers. However, if you are using a privately hosted cloud, perhaps a cloud from your Sage business partner, the DocLink license allows you to install DocLink in that cloud environment as well. So the option is yours.
Great. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is 2 p.m. So we're going to get ready to close this. If you have any questions. My email is dan.harris@sage.com, and I do manage the DocLink relationship for Sage with DocLink. And Dan, if you want to, I will put my email in the chat, and if you want to do the same, that way folks will be able to reach out to us if they have questions at a later date.
I am entering it as we speak, Dan. Thank you.
Again, thanks everyone for your time, and hope you have a very, very happy holiday season. If we don't speak again, hopefully we'll speak to each other in the new year. So thanks for your attendance, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.
Thank you, everyone.